Hello everybody and welcome back for some weekly VR news where I break down everything going on in the VR industry, prepare you for new VR game releases, and then focus in on a few major stories. Today we have 7 new game announcements, a quick review for Horizon Call of the Mountain, 5 keys to give away for Drop Dead the Cabin, and finally there's a major deal in the works between Meta and Tencent that has the potential to change the VR landscape. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by VR Rock. VR Rock makes prescription lens inserts for all of your favorite VR headsets, and now they have them for the PlayStation VR2. So if you've been struggling to get your eyeglasses to fit inside the headset, or you're afraid you might scratch the lens, these can be a great option. They magnetically connect, so they're easy to put on and take right back off. And if you're interested, I have a 10% discount code down in the description and a link to their webpage. Okay, so let's start things off with a quick review for the PlayStation VR2's flagship title, Horizon Call of the Mountain. This game is truly stunning and an absolutely amazing introduction to any VR newcomers. It's a combination of conversational cutscenes, climbing, stealth, puzzle solving, unexpected moments, and robot creature battling. At times though, the balance does feel a bit off and I could do with a little bit less climbing, and my other gripes include the fact that this is a linear experience. At times it feels designed for VR newcomers, and the control scheme could use a few tweaks. Otherwise though, this was an absolutely fantastic and beautiful experience that I highly recommend. As a huge fan of the Horizon series, I loved battling machines from the VR perspective, and this aspect of the game was captured perfectly. Overall, this is a new top tier title, and a great introduction for the PlayStation VR2. But let's move on to some newly announced titles, starting with the action-adventure title, The Foglands. The Foglands is a combination of dungeon crawler, shooter, and action roguelike gameplay. Taking on the role of a runner, you'll be battling your way through a mysterious fog-infested world, where you'll get to punch, throw, shoot, and smash through an array of monstrous creatures. Along the way, you'll collect powerful abilities and experience a story-rich narrative. I'm personally loving the style and action shown in this game, so I can't wait to check it out. And speaking of action, the PlayStation VR2 exclusive Synapse is coming later this year. It's from the same studio that brought us the action-packed shooter Fracked, and this time they're giving us telekinetic powers and dropping us in a black and white world. Luckily though, you'll still see the red blood of your enemies. So if you enjoyed the high-action run-and-cover gameplay of Fracked, Synapse should be right up your alley, as it's taking things to a whole new level. I personally thought there was a lack of depth in Fracked, but it made up for it with exciting moments and over-the-top action. I compared it to the cheap thrills of a B-rated action movie like Fast and the Furious. But if you are looking for more depth, we have Journey to Foundation, based on the legendary sci-fi series by Isaac Asimov, sending us into the far future with a multi-planetary empire that's beginning to crumble. As a peacekeeper in a galaxy that's remained relatively calm for the past 12,000 years, things have suddenly changed, and revolt is currently brewing. You're set to investigate some defectors who are planning to leave the Empire and join the Foundation, an organization that believes the Empire's collapse is inevitable, and they're planning to save humanity. It'll be your choice to decide who to trust, and which side of the battle to fight for. This is a world filled with such deep lore, and as a sucker for a good sci-fi story, I can't wait to try this one out. But if you're looking for something a bit more emotional, we have the narrative adventure Before Your Eyes. This was a flat screen title that's now being ported into VR, and they've added a brand new mechanic that utilizes eye tracking. Your life from childhood to adult will be playing out for the Gatekeeper, but anytime you blink, it'll fast forward in time, and you won't be able to replay these moments. Now you will have some narrative control, but this is basically your whole life flashing before your virtual eyes. It's an emotional tale that has overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and I'm sure some people will enjoy this ride. Now another port coming to the PlayStation VR is Green Hell. This story-driven survival title drops you off in the Amazon and puts you up against Mother Nature, local wildlife, and the indigenous population. It's an unforgiving battle against starvation, accidental death, and outright getting murdered. The Quest 2 version of Green Hell was well received, with the major complaints focusing on graphics and performance, so I expect people will truly enjoy the PlayStation VR 2 version. Now I also expect you to die, but not in Green Hell, and rather in the newly announced I Expect You to Die 3. The series of quirky spy-themed escape rooms is coming back, and you can expect plenty of new ridiculous ways to die. The storyline continues in the third installment, Cog in the Machine, and this time you're up against a new mastermind villain, but you get to go undercover in style, selecting from an array of hats and gloves to take on your top secret missions. The I Expect You to Die series is just undeniable fun, and I can't wait to jump back in. And one more sequel that I'm sure people are pumped for is another Fisherman's Tale. This follow-up to the award-winning A Fisherman's Tale delivers a poetic storyline and unique VR puzzle mechanics that'll have you controlling limbs, solving puzzles, exploring new locations, and revealing the mystery surrounding this world. Now, it's great to see VR developers are in a position where they could successfully make sequels, and since the VR space is still relatively new, the sequels are usually so much better than the original game, and I hope that's the case here. Now, we also get an update for the PlayStation 5 remake of Resident Evil 4. The VR mode is currently in development. It'll be available as free DLC to anyone who purchases the flat screen game, and it looks like our VR concerns from a previous state of play have been alleviated, and we will be getting a full VR version of this game. Now, I always think of this title as a slap in the face to Meta, as one of their most successful Quest 2 titles is a port from a 14-year-old game. Well, now Sony's coming out and saying, no, here's the real version. And that right there was my list of new game announcements, but I also have 5 keys for Drop Dead the Cabin to give out. If you're not familiar with this title, it's a 2-person co-op shooter that plays a bit like Call of Duty Zombies. It's designed to be extremely challenging, with an extra layer of strategy, as you'll have to keep your base up and powered in order to be extracted, and you'll have to decide which areas and resources to unlock first. It's absolutely frantic and easy to recommend if you're looking for a challenging title that you can play with a buddy. Now, as far as the giveaway goes, I'll put 2 keys up on the screen right now, and I hope you guys watching will say thanks just by leaving a comment. It doesn't have to be about Drop Dead. Any feedback would be great. And then the other 3 keys will be given out on my Discord, which there's a link to down in the description. Now, before we move into the main topic of today, we have another hand tracking showcase from Meta. Their interaction SDK has been updated with gestures for teleportation and snap turning. Now, the last time I commented on Meta's version 50 hand tracking update, it was a bit divisive on Twitter. So I bit my tongue this time and waited to discuss it in long form content. So for starters, I can't deny this is a technological achievement, and Meta will have to work on stuff like this for their future. AR can't become the next computing platform if you have to carry around some controllers. But with that being said, these demos are in no way relevant to us right now. It's almost like Meta saying, hey, look at us, we're still doing things, I promise, over here. And maybe it's to steal some thunder from Sony, or there are people at Meta who just get really excited about this. But I always look at stuff and say, well, what would I use that for right now? And they demoed it in a game-like setting, which is niche and won't improve the gaming experience. It's just easier to control a game with an actual controller, and you also get some feedback. I remain skeptical of hand-tracked games, except for a very few specific use cases, and I look at this demo as Meta once again failing to show off something cool. They still have an image problem to captivate a greater gaming audience, and while I know that's not their ultimate goal, I don't think this helps them in the short run either. But let's move into Meta working with Tencent to bring the Quest to the Chinese market. Now, I previously discussed how this major company was giving up on their VR endeavors, but it looks like that might not be 100% true. Rather than starting from scratch, trying to develop their own VR headset, they're instead looking to partner with Meta. Similar deals have been made in the past, as the Oculus Go was sold in China under a different name, and Tencent previously partnered with Nintendo to sell a modified version of the Switch. This direction allows Tencent to bypass the short-term profitability issue associated with VR. Instead, they could just focus on software development and continue to make money like normal. Now, this is an approach that Valve took back in the day, as their main focus is selling software through Steam. So they partnered with HTC for the hardware, which they didn't expect to be very profitable, and were mainly hoping to drive up software sales. It's basically a much smaller initial investment to build up your needed player base. Now, we can't say for sure what impact this will have on the VR industry, but we might see some more foreign titles make it into the US market. This would most likely strengthen Meta and increase the global popularity of the Quest, but nothing's for sure in this scenario.
And that was today's video, brought to you by my dad, Mateo311. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here,
Consider subscribing.
consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing. We'll see you guys on next time.
We'll see you guys on next time.